Hey everyone, welcome back. It seems like everywhere you turn these days, someone's got a different take on what's happening in the financial world. One minute everything's looking up, and the next it's like the sky's falling. And honestly, it can be tough to cut through all that noise and figure out what's actually going on.
Absolutely. We're bombarded with so much information constantly. It's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Totally. And that's exactly why we're here today. For this deep dive, we're going to tackle two pretty big topics. First, we'll unpack all the buzz around the recent FOMC meeting, and then we'll dig into this whole debate about Bitcoin's 21 million coin cap.
Should be a fascinating deep dive.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Especially because, I was talking to some folks the other day, some who even work in finance, believe it or not, and they were attributing the market's reaction to the FOMC meeting directly to Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were convinced that the Fed's decision was like a sure sign of economic doom and gloom.
Yes. The blame game is always a popular one.
Isn't it, though? It's easier to point fingers than actually try to understand these complex systems.
For sure.
So we're going to cut through all of that and see what's really going on.
That's good.
All right, so let's start with the FOMC meeting. The media pretty much went into overdrive painting this picture of economic weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you actually listen to Jerome Powell's statements, it's a very different story.
Absolutely. Powell actually highlighted several positive economic indicators in his remarks. For instance, he mentioned the solid growth in the manufacturing sector, which is, a key sign of economic health.
I see.
And overall, he said the U.S. economy is expanding at a pretty decent pace, 2.8% GDP growth.
Wow. And he even said that the U.S. has avoided a recession, which, directly contradicts that whole we're heading for a recession narrative that's been floating around.
Right. And on top of that, Powell also addressed inflation, which he stated is at 2.7% and trending downward.
Okay, so wait, now I'm even more confused. If the economy is doing relatively well, why did the Fed cut rates? Wasn't that the thing that kind of sent everyone into a panic in the first place?
That's where, understanding the Fed's goals and how they use their tools comes in. The media tends to simplify things and portray rate cuts as like a knee-jerk reaction to a struggling economy. But in reality, it's often more nuanced than that.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me.
So basically, the Fed has this target inflation rate of around 2%. A rate cut can be a way to make borrowing a bit easier, which then can stimulate investment and spending. And that ultimately helps to keep inflation from dipping too low.
So it's like a little nudge to keep things moving in the right direction.
Precisely. And, easier borrowing could also potentially lead to more investment in different assets, including Bitcoin, which we'll talk about a little later.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the rate cut isn't necessarily this big, scary sign of impending economic doom like some media outlets are making it out to be.
Right. It's not necessarily a sign of panic. It's crucial to remember that the Fed operates on a much longer timeline than, say, the 24-hour news cycle.
Oh, for sure.
They're looking at the bigger picture and making adjustments to try to maintain stability over the long term.
Right, and, that's where things get even more interesting, because there's this whole other layer to this whole media frenzy. Powell has actually publicly said that during his time as Fed chair, Trump called him all the time about the economy. But Biden, on the other hand, has not.
That's a fascinating tidbit.
Right.
It definitely seems like the media is already trying to shape the narrative around the 2025 election, even though it's, still a couple of years away.
Totally. And it almost feels like they're using the Fed's actions as like a political football. Like CNN, for example, they immediately framed the rate cut as a negative thing, but then Fox News spun it as, a strategic move that could benefit Trump in the future.
It's all about framing, isn't it?
It really is.
It just highlights why it's so important to be aware of potential biases in the media and to approach everything you read or hear with a healthy dose of skepticism.
It's like you've got to be your own media these days.
Yeah.
Fact check everything.
Exactly.
Which actually brings us to our second big topic for today, Bitcoin, and all the commotion surrounding its 21 million coin cap.
Oh, yes. That's an interesting one.
It is, especially with that recent video from BlackRock, the investment giant, shared by none other than Michael Saylor, the big Bitcoin advocate.
No, right.
That included a disclaimer saying that Bitcoin's 21 million coin cap is not actually guaranteed.
It's like they dropped a little bomb into the crypto world.
I know, right? Suddenly, everyone's wondering if this fundamental rule of Bitcoin could actually change.
It's understandable why people are a little freaked out. I mean, that 21 million coin cap is one of the things that makes Bitcoin unique. It's this hard limit on supply programmed into the code. And a lot of people believe that's like a key factor in its value.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Yeah.
How realistic is it that this cap could actually be changed?
Well, to change it, you'd need what's called a hard fork. Basically, that means creating a whole new version of Bitcoin that operates with different rules.
I see.
And to pull that off, you'd need like near unanimous agreement from everyone involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Miners, exchanges, developers, nodes, users, everyone.
So it's not just like tweaking a few lines of code,
Yeah.
it's a whole system overhaul.
Exactly. And if you remember the whole block size wars back in 2017, you'll know how even like seemingly small changes to Bitcoin can be incredibly controversial.
Oh yeah, things got pretty heated back then.
Right. So imagine trying to change something as fundamental as the 21 million coin cap. It'd be like trying to rewrite the Constitution.
Whoa, okay, yeah, that's a big deal.
It's not impossible, but it would require a monumental effort and a level of agreement that's almost unheard of in the crypto world.
Especially with how passionate people are about their crypto.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it sounds like changing the Bitcoin cap is pretty unlikely, at least for now. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say BlackRock, with all their influence and resources, actually managed to pull off this hard fork and create a new version of Bitcoin with a different cap. What do you think they would even call it?
Well, knowing BlackRock, they'd probably try to brand it as the real Bitcoin, leverage all their marketing muscle to try and make everyone believe their version is the legitimate one.
Oh, wow. That's kind of scary. It's like they could hijack the entire Bitcoin brand.
Right. It really highlights the tension that exists in the crypto world between the ideal of decentralization, a system controlled by the people, and the potential for these powerful players to exert their influence.
Totally. It's like a constant push and pull.
It is.
And a good reminder that we all need to be super vigilant, do our own research,
Yeah.
and not just blindly trust anyone.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, so we're going to take a quick pause here, but when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into this 21 million Bitcoin cap debate. We'll talk about the media's role in all of this, and of course, what it all means for you. So stay tuned.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we're back. And, as we've been talking about this whole 21 million Bitcoin cap thing, I've been thinking about how much we just kind of take for granted when it comes to money. I mean, like, for most of us, money has always been this thing controlled by, governments and central banks.
Yeah, that's true. We're so used to that centralized model that the idea of a decentralized system like Bitcoin can feel pretty radical.
It is. And it's kind of crazy to think about what would happen if this fundamental aspect of Bitcoin could actually be changed.
Yeah.
Like, would it totally undermine people's trust in the system? Would it destroy its value?
Those are really good questions, and they get to the heart of why this debate is so important. See, one of the big arguments for Bitcoin is that it's scarce. There's only ever going to be 21 million, and that's it. And a lot of people think that limited supply is what gives it value, kind of like gold.
Right. That makes sense. So if you could just change that limit with a hard fork, it would completely change the whole game.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk me through this hard fork thing again.
Yeah.
I get that it's like creating a new version of Bitcoin, but why is that so controversial? Isn't that just how software evolves,
Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine you have a favorite app on your phone, and the developers release a major update. But this update isn't just adding new features, it's completely changing how the app works.
Oh, wow.
Right. Some people might love the new version, others might hate it, but then imagine that this update also splits all your data. So now you have to pick which version to use, and you can't switch back and forth easily.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. And that's essentially what a hard fork does in the crypto world.
Okay, I see. So it's not just a technical upgrade. It's like a potential breakup of the whole community.
Exactly. It can lead to confusion and uncertainty, and even big swings in the price of Bitcoin. Remember what happened with Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah, that rings a bell. Wasn't that a hard fork that created a whole new cryptocurrency?
Yep, exactly. Back in 2017, there was this huge debate in the Bitcoin community about how to increase the network's capacity to handle more transactions. Some people wanted to increase the block size, which is kind of like making the pipes bigger so more data can flow through, but others were totally against it.
I see.
And eventually, that disagreement led to a hard fork, and boom, Bitcoin Cash was born.
So even though they were trying to improve Bitcoin, they ended up with a whole new currency.
It's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah, it is.
But it shows how hard it is to govern a decentralized system. There's no one in charge calling the shots. So any changes require mass agreement, which can be really tough to get.
Okay, so bringing this back to the 21 million coin cap. So you're saying even if BlackRock or someone else really wanted to change the cap, It wouldn't be easy.
Not at all. They'd have to convince pretty much everyone involved to go along with it, miners, developers, exchanges, everyday users. And with how divided the Bitcoin community can be, that's a huge challenge.
Right, because people have very strong opinions about their crypto.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's also this philosophical question here. Does changing the cap go against the whole idea of Bitcoin? Like, does it make it less trustworthy as a decentralized system?
That's a good question.
It's not just about the technical stuff. It's about, like, the core principles of Bitcoin.
It's about the whole philosophy behind it.
Exactly.
It's funny because this whole debate is kind of like a microcosm of what's happening in the world right now. Like, we've got this push for decentralization and giving power back to individuals. But then there's this constant tension with powerful institutions and centralized control.
It is fascinating, isn't it? And it's happening everywhere, not just in finance, but tech, politics, pretty much every aspect of our lives.
You know what else has been on my mind during this whole conversation? The media. We touched on how they were spinning the FOMC meeting, but I'm curious what you think about how they shape our perceptions of things like Bitcoin and crypto in general.
The media is super powerful in shaping how we see the world. And when it comes to complicated stuff like finance and technology, they often have to simplify things to make it understandable for everyone.
Yeah, because not everyone's a financial expert.
Right. But that simplification can sometimes lead to, like, distortions and misunderstandings.
It's like that game of telephone we used to play as kids, where the message gets all messed up as it goes around.
Exactly. And with the constant news cycle and social media, that kind of distortion can happen super fast.
Oh, for sure.
Like, one little misinterpretation can blow up into a huge media frenzy, and then everyone's reacting to this warped version of reality without even realizing it.
It's funny. We were just talking about manipulation in the context of Bitcoin. But the media itself can be a powerful tool for manipulation, too, whether it's intentional or not.
That's very true.
Like, think about how they use fear and uncertainty to get people to click and watch.
Oh, yeah. Fear is a powerful motivator.
It is, and it seems like that's especially true with financial news, where people are already kind of on edge about their money.
For sure. People's emotions can get really heightened when it comes to their finances.
Yeah, like think about how quickly people panic when the market drops, or how excited they get about a new investment opportunity.
It's human nature to react emotionally to money stuff, but it's important to remember that those emotions can cloud our judgment.
Totally. We can make bad decisions when we're driven by fear or greed.
Exactly. So it's super important to be aware of those emotions and try to approach financial news with a critical and discerning eye.
Okay, so what can our listeners do to protect themselves from all this manipulation? How can they make sure they're making smart decisions?
Well, one of the best things you can do is to get your information from lots of different places. Don't just rely on one news source or social media platform.
Right, get different perspectives.
Exactly. Read industry publications, listen to podcasts, talk to people who have different viewpoints.
That's so important. It's easy to just stick with what you already believe. But if you want to be truly informed, you got to challenge your own assumptions.
Couldn't agree more. And don't be afraid to go straight to the source whenever you can.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're interested in a company, don't just read news articles about it. Go to their website, read their financial statements, listen to their earnings call.
Oh, I see. Go straight to the horse's mouth.
Exactly. The more you understand the actual data, the better decisions you'll be able to make.
Okay, so that's about being informed. But what about actually taking control of your financial future? How can people be more than just passive bystanders in all of this?
One of the most empowering things you can do is figure out your financial goals and then make a plan to achieve them.
Okay, set some goals.
Yeah, like, what do you actually want your money to do for you? Are you saving for retirement, a down payment on a house, your kids' education, something else?
Yeah, get clear on what you want.
Right. Once you know what you're aiming for, you can start making smart decisions about how to invest your money.
So it's not just about chasing the latest hot stock tip or trying to time the market.
Not at all. It's about having a solid long-term strategy that aligns with your values and goals.
Makes sense.
And remember, investing isn't just for rich people.
Yeah, anyone can do it.
There are tons of resources out there to help people of all income levels learn how to invest.
So don't be intimidated.
No. Take it one step at a time and don't be afraid to ask for help. The best investment you can make is in your own financial education.
I love that. Invest in yourself first.
It's so true.
Okay, so we've talked about being informed, setting goals, and investing in your knowledge. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind as they navigate this crazy financial world?
As we've been discussing all this stuff, it's pretty clear that there's a lot of fear and uncertainty out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it makes sense. We're living through some pretty major changes. It's easy to get caught up in all the doom and gloom headlines.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
It can, but it's important to remember that fear is not a good financial advisor.
So true.
Don't let it make you freeze up or make rash decisions that you'll regret later.
Easier said than done, though, right?
It is, but one thing that can help is to focus on what you can control.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, you can't control the global economy or the stock market,
True.
but you can control your own spending habits, how much you save, and how you invest your money.
So instead of stressing about things you can't change.
Focus on building a solid financial foundation.
Okay, focus on the things you can control.
Exactly. Remember, building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint.
Slow and steady wins the race, right?
That's it. There will always be ups and downs along the way. The key is to stay disciplined, stay informed, and stay focused on your long-term goals.
Don't let fear or greed lead you astray.
Exactly.
Something that's really been bugging me this whole time is that if even something as seemingly fixed as Bitcoin's 21 million coin cap is up for debate, what does that say about the future of money itself?
Oh, that is a great question. It really gets to the heart of how much money is changing. For centuries, we've relied on central authorities to control our monetary system.
Government central bank.
Right, but Bitcoin and crypto in general are challenging that whole idea.
Like a whole new way of thinking about money.
It is a giant experiment in decentralized finance.
Where the power shifts from institutions to individuals.
Exactly.
It's hard to imagine how it will all play out.
It is. It's like we're all navigating uncharted waters.
But it's exciting too, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's a time of incredible innovation and change. And the best thing you can do is stay curious, stay informed, and be open to new ideas.
Don't be afraid to challenge the old ways of doing things.
Exactly. The financial world is changing fast. And those who are willing to adapt and learn will be the ones who thrive.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you in the next deep dive. We're back for the final part of our deep dive. As we've been talking about the FOMC meeting and this whole Bitcoin debate, it's really struck me how much the financial world is changing.
Yeah, it's like we're at this crossroads where technology is completely reshaping how we think about money and investing.
It's pretty exciting, but also kind of scary, right? Like there's so much potential, but also so much uncertainty.
It's like we're exploring this new frontier with amazing opportunities, but also, uncharted territories and hidden dangers.
Totally. So how can our listeners actually navigate this new landscape? We've talked about critical thinking and being your own media, but what are some concrete steps they can take?
One of the best things you can do is diversify your information sources. Don't just rely on the mainstream media or one social media platform for your financial news.
Right. Get different perspectives.
Exactly. Seek out alternative viewpoints, read industry publications, listen to podcasts, talk to people who have different opinions than you.
That's so important. It's easy to just stick with what you already believe, but if you really want to make informed decisions, you have to challenge your own assumptions.
Absolutely. And along those lines, don't be afraid to go straight to the source material.
What do you mean?
Like if you're interested in a company's performance, don't just read articles about them. Go to their website, read their financial statements, listen to their earnings calls.
Oh, I see. Get the information straight from the source.
Exactly. The more you understand the underlying data, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions.
Okay, so that's about becoming more informed. But what about actually taking control of your financial future? How can our listeners become empowered investors, not just passive bystanders?
Well, one of the most empowering things you can do is define your own financial goals. What do you want your money to do for you? Are you saving for retirement? A down payment on a house? Your children's education? Once you have a clear vision of your goals, you can start making a plan to achieve them.
So it's not just about chasing the latest hot stock tip or trying to time the market.
Nope. It's about having a long-term strategy that aligns with your personal values and aspirations.
Makes sense.
And remember, investing isn't just for the wealthy or the financial experts. There are plenty of resources available to help people of all income levels learn the basics of investing and create a financial plan that works for them.
So don't be intimidated by the jargon or the complexity.
Take it one step at a time, seek out guidance when you need it, and remember that the most important investment you can make is in your own financial education.
I love that. Invest in yourself first.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about becoming more informed, setting clear goals, and investing in your financial knowledge. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind as they navigate this rapidly changing financial world?
Something that's become really clear throughout our discussion is that there's a lot of fear and uncertainty out there right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's understandable. We're living in a time of unprecedented change, and it's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the doomsday predictions.
Totally. It can feel like the sky's falling sometimes.
Right. But it's crucial to remember that fear is rarely a good advisor when it comes to financial decisions.
So how can we avoid letting fear take over and dictate our choices?
One helpful strategy is to focus on what you can control. You can't control the global economy or the stock market.
True, things are out of our hand.
Exactly. But you can control your own spending habits, your savings rate, and your investment choices.
Okay, so shift the focus to what we can actually influence.
Precisely. Instead of stressing about things outside your control, concentrate on building a solid financial foundation based on sound principles and a long-term perspective.
It's like that classic saying, slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. Building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. And there will always be bumps in the road. The key is to stay disciplined, stay informed, and stay focused on your goals.
Don't let fear or greed derail you from your path.
You got it.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to this thought. If even something as seemingly fixed as Bitcoin's 21 million coin cap is potentially up for debate, what does that say about the future of money itself?
That's a really profound question, and it really gets at this ongoing evolution of money. We've relied on centralized authorities like governments and central banks to manage our financial systems for so long, but now Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency movement are challenging that fundamental idea.
It's a whole new paradigm.
It is a giant experiment in decentralized finance where the power shifts from institutions to individuals.
It's hard to imagine how it will all shake out in the end.
It really is. It's like we're all navigating uncharted territory.
But it's also incredibly exciting to be a part of this transformation.
Absolutely. And the key is to approach it with a mindset of continuous learning, critical thinking, and informed decision-making.
Be curious. Ask questions, challenge assumptions.
Exactly. The financial world is evolving rapidly, and those who embrace this change will be the ones who thrive.
Well, that's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the FOMC meeting the Bitcoin debate and the future of finance.
It's been a pleasure. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and feel empowered to navigate the world of finance and crypto with confidence and curiosity.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep challenging those narratives.
Until next time.
See you in the next deep dive.